Irwin stared at the murky river water. His reflection stared back, a blurry mess of doubts and anxieties. He was a walking cliché, heartbroken, lost, eating ramen noodles for the third night in a row. Brenda had left. She said she needed space. Irwin needed a cheeseburger, but that wasn't the point. He kicked a pebble into the water. Ripples spread out, distorting his reflection even further. What was he doing with his life? Chasing dreams in the big city, working double shifts at the coffee shop. For what? A tiny apartment and a broken heart? Maybe Brenda was right. Maybe he needed a change. His phone buzzed in his pocket. Mom. Irwin almost didn't answer. Their relationship had been strained ever since he'd moved out. His parents had wanted him to take over the family bakery back in Iowa, but Irwin had bigger dreams, or so he told himself. Irwin's mother. Hey, Mom, he answered tentatively. Irwin's mother. Irwin, honey. Her voice was shaky. You need to come home. It's about your father. Irwin's heart hammered in his chest. Irwin, Dad? What about Dad? Is he okay? He couldn't imagine anything happening to his dad. His dad, the baker, with flour perpetually dusted on his apron and a twinkle in his eye. Irwin's mother. He's gone, honey. She choked back a sob. He wasn't your real father, Irwin. Silence. Irwin thought the call had dropped. Irwin's mother. Irwin, are you there? Irwin. What? He whispered, his voice hollow. What are you saying? His world was tilting on its axis. His father, the man who taught him to ride a bike, who shared his love for old movies, who made the best apple pie in the world, wasn't his father. Irwin's mother. It's a long story, honey, her voice trembling. But your real father, he left before you were born. He was a powerful man, wealthy. He didn't even know about you. But he's gone now, Irwin. And you're his heir. Irwin laughed. It was a dry, brittle sound, devoid of humor. Irwin, Mom, I know you're grieving, but this is crazy. Heir, wealthy? His life wasn't a soap opera. Irwin's mother. I know it sounds insane, honey, she said, but it's true. I received a letter from his lawyers. They've been looking for you. You need to come home, Irwin. Everything's about to change. Irwin hung up the phone, his hand shaking. He stared at the cracked pavement. His life was a mess. He was a mess. And now this, a long-lost father, an inheritance? It felt like someone had spiked his ramen noodles with hallucinogens. He pulled out his wallet. A crumpled $5 bill stared back at him. Maybe he could afford those cheeseburgers after all. Or maybe he was going insane. He needed to know the truth. Irwin raced towards the nearest ATM, his heart pounding like a drum solo in his chest. He felt like Alice tumbling down the rabbit hole. This couldn't be real. It was too absurd, too cinematic. He swiped his debit card, his fingers clumsy with anticipation and a healthy dose of disbelief. The screen flickered. He punched in his PIN, the familiar sequence suddenly feeling foreign. He checked his balance. His stomach lurched. He blinked. He checked again. The number was still there, staring back at him in stark, digital glory. It was his balance, all right, just significantly larger, like add a couple of zeros larger. Irwin stumbled back from the ATM, his legs suddenly feeling like jelly. The world around him seemed to spin. The noise of the city faded away, replaced by a strange buzzing in his ears. This was insane. This was impossible. And yet, the evidence was right there in his bank account. He sank onto a nearby bench, his head spinning. Everything he thought he knew, everything he'd worked for, it all seemed so insignificant now. What was the point of scrimping and saving, of dreaming of a better life, when that life had been waiting for him all along? A wave of anger washed over him. Anger at his parents for keeping this secret from him. Anger at his father for abandoning him. Anger at the universe for this cruel cosmic joke. He was angry, confused, and, strangely, a little bit excited. His phone buzzed again. His mom. He ignored it. He needed time to process, to wrap his head around this life-altering news. He looked up at the sky, a sliver of blue peeking through the grey cityscape. Was this a blessing or a curse? Only time would tell. He stood up, tucking the ATM receipt into his pocket, a tangible reminder of his new reality. The world was still spinning, but he felt a strange sense of clarity. He had a second chance, a chance to start over, to live the life he'd always dreamed of, and maybe, just maybe, to find himself along the way. He walked towards the nearest burger joint, a newfound spring in his step. He was an heir, yes, but he was also still Irwin, and Irwin was starving. He ordered a double cheeseburger, fries, and a milkshake. Because hey, when life throws you a curveball, you might as well catch it with a side of fries. As he took a bite of the juicy burger, a slow grin spread across his face. Life was messy, unpredictable, and sometimes downright bizarre. But it was also full of surprises. And who knew, maybe being the heir wasn't so bad after all.